He just filed bankruptcy. He's this and that and this and that. Homie, you got the greatest start ever. Dre put you on. Eminem. I came out of Miami self-made.
50, who own your masters? Who own your masters? I'll buy your masters. You ready? I will buy your masters.
For years, Rick Ross and 50 Cent have been throwing shots, trading insults, and clowning each other from afar. But one wild night in Vancouver turned all that talk into something real. Ross tried to play it cool, but 50 could smell weakness, and Drake quietly chose a side. Now, new footage is making waves, showing this beef might have gone beyond just diss tracks. Things might have actually gotten physical. The date, June 30th, 2024. The place, Vancouver, Canada, a city on the country's west coast, far from Toronto but still deep in what people like to call Drake's territory. The scene was the Ignite Music Festival, supposed to be just another stop on Rick Ross's endless tour, another night to collect the bag and give fans a show they'd never forget. But instead, that night flipped the whole hip-hop world upside down. It sparked endless memes, brought back old rivalries, and gave longtime enemies exactly what they've been waiting for, a reason to talk again. Rick Ross had just wrapped up his set. The crowd was vibing, the energy was crazy, everything seemed smooth. But as Ross walked off stage, his DJ made a move that would completely change how the night ended. Whether it was the DJ's call or Ross's own decision, it turned out to be a huge mistake.
Hey guys, I just saw a very unfortunate situation that took place in Canada. And I wanted to say to everyone, that I hope that brother made it home safely. I hope that he now has a different perspective and a better sense of what to do and what not to do while you're out in the world, That part where the young guy was he did this little move and got knocked out right there. That does not reflect him. That reflects his camp. And he might need to go get the Dream Chasers?
Out of nowhere, the speakers blasted Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us, the massive track that had already become the symbol of Drake's public embarrassment during his feud with the Compton rapper. This wasn't just any record being played anywhere. This was that record, the one that tore through the rap world and hit Drake where it hurt most. And playing it in Drake's own country, that was like lighting a fire in a room full of gasoline. The crowd didn't know what to think. Some cheered, some booed, and backstage, that's where the real tension started to boil. Something about that song in that moment changed everything. Playing that specific track in Vancouver, Drake's own city, was either a bold move or straight up reckless. Maybe it was both. What happened next got caught on camera, and that clip spread like wildfire across every social media platform within hours. The footage was messy, shaky, and grainy, but one thing was crystal clear. What it showed was real. As Rick Ross made his way through the venue, about 15 men started surrounding him and his crew. You could feel the tension through the screen. The energy flipped from calm to dangerous in an instant. Someone shouted for the DJ to cut that song off. Voices clashed, and suddenly the vibe went from celebration to confrontation. Then, out of nowhere, a man lunged forward and threw a punch straight at Ross. The punch landed, and that's when chaos broke loose. The video showed Ross's security trying to hold the line, but they were outnumbered fast. One of his team members got jumped, hit from every direction as several men kicked and punched him while he was down. The scene was brutal, pure mayhem caught in real time. Within hours, the clip went viral. Millions watched the biggest boss getting pressed, punched, and his crew getting overrun in what many called enemy territory. Social media blew up with reactions. Everyone had something to say. Memes popped up, fans debated who started it, and analysts dissected every second of the clip. But what made this whole situation even more shocking? The quiet approval that seemed to come from people no one expected to side against Ross. Drake himself stirred the pot when he liked a video of the fight that hit Instagram. The post caption read, "Y'all already know this a Champagne Poppy Town," making it clear who owned the turf. That one little double tap said everything. A quiet but powerful signal from the Toronto superstar.
I'm talking, and Charlamagne was saying that if 50 and Ross could squash their beef, they could make great music together.
Not even just great music. I feel like you two are like incredible people, like characters, like very entertaining. Like I think y'all could make just something very entertaining together.
I don't think it would ever happen.
It wasn't just a random scroll and like moment. This was Drake sending a digital cosign. an unspoken "I approve" of what went down. The fact that he publicly acknowledged the clip, especially with Ross being the one on the receiving end, showed how deep their fallout had gotten. Ross tried to play it cool afterward. On his Instagram story, he posted a photo standing proudly in front of his private jet, captioned simply, "Vancouver, it was fun. Till next time." It was the kind of boss move he's known for, brushing off the chaos like it was nothing. Later, he told TMZ that nobody on his team was seriously hurt and even complimented Vancouver as a beautiful city he couldn't wait to visit again. But beneath that calm attitude, everyone knew the situation had hit a nerve. Then came the real twist. Curtis Jackson entered the chat. And when Curtis, better known as 50 Cent, jumps into a story that involves Rick Ross, you already know the energy changes instantly. For more than 15 years, these two have been locked in one of hip-hop's longest and pettiest rivalries. Their feud isn't just about bars, it's about pride, history, and egos that never back down. Every time Ross slips, 50's right there watching, ready to laugh, post, and remind everyone who's really running the show. And this Vancouver moment, it was perfect ammo for him. 50 didn't waste a second turning the incident into a public spectacle. It was like he'd been waiting years for a moment exactly like this. "Go get the Dream Chasers," 50 Cent said with that classic straight face. Before cracking up in pure 50 fashion, the moment was pure Curtis Jackson energy. Confident, hilarious, and sharp. His mention of Dream Chasers, Meek Mill's label, wasn't random at all. It was a slick jab aimed straight at Rick Ross, who happens to be Meek's boss under Maybach Music Group. Considering the tangled web between all of them, that line hit extra hard, but 50 wasn't done. Not even close. He dropped another video showing Ross running from the chaos, tagging it "The Great Escape" and adding, "The Chasers, they're chasing me." It was straight trolling. Cold, calculated, and brutally funny. Every post felt like a setup, and 50 was running the internet that week.
Listen, there are a lot of things you can say about 50. I truly appreciate. Like, there are times when I think he goes too far. Mm-hmm. There are times when I think there's some people that I'm like, why do you get involved in that? But when it comes to the people that he has legitimate, long-standing beef with, I actually respect the level of never getting off their neck. I really do.
Pettiness.
Then came the real show. 50 Cent's live performance at the Ottawa Blues Fest on July 6th, 2024. Right in front of a hyped Canadian crowd, he turned the incident into part of his set. With a smirk, he said, "I can't believe what y'all did to Rick Ross. Y'all really handled him." The crowd went crazy as he started pretending to look around, calling out, "Who did it? You? There you go right there." Then he fired off the line that shook the whole venue. "Who said Canada was soft? Who said that?" The audience exploded with laughter and cheers. A few days later, he doubled down on Instagram, posting a video of himself celebrating the Canadian love. "They rock with me out here," he said proudly. Then with a grin, he added, "They handled Rick Ross for real." Standing beside him was Uncle Murda, who jumped in saying, "We going to Canada, and we not like them other dudes, you heard?" The trolling was endless, and social media couldn't get enough. Even weeks later, 50 was still milking the moment. When he hit Toronto on July 21st, he looked out at the roaring crowd and said, "I just want to thank y'all for making me feel so at home. 'Cause some of y'all really handled Rick Ross that night." The place went wild. It wasn't just another concert. It was 50 turning real-life drama into pure entertainment, reminding everyone that when he trolls, nobody does it better. The pettiness hit a whole new level. Rick Ross jumped on Instagram Live on July 4th to tell his side of the story, and as always, he did it with flair. Calling himself the biggest boss, Ross painted a version of events that didn't exactly line up with what fans saw in the viral clips. He was cool, confident, and full of bravado, brushing off the entire thing like it was nothing. He swore he never got hit, saying, "Let me tell you something. When that first dude stepped up to Rose, the short, heavy one that looked like Bam Bam Bigelow from wrestling, I squatted down to his level and told him, 'Boy, if I swing on you, you'll remember everything you ate this week.'" According to Ross, that was enough to shut the guy down instantly. He claimed the man froze up, saying nothing, doing nothing, just backing off completely. Then, Ross said, another dude behind him shouted, "I know memes," right before someone threw a drink at him. Laughing it off, Ross added, "I'm still convinced nobody touched me. Not a single hit." But fans online weren't buying it. The video footage told a totally different story, and everyone knew it.
Then I guess Drake ended up liking one of the videos, and then Rick Ross is the mother of his son. Tia Kemp jumps in, and then, you know, in the comments, and then Drake responds to her, calling her my goat. Is that what he said, Cass One?
Yeah, that's what he said. He called her his goat.
My
Yeah.
goat. Yeah, this was like emojis and stuff.
Still, that's part of what makes Rick Ross such a captivating figure. His commitment to his version of the truth. He's got that unique ability to take an L and twist it into something funny, dramatic, and somehow still boss-like. Even when reality doesn't match his words, he tells it with so much confidence and humor that people can't help but tune in. Whether anyone believed him didn't really matter, Ross was going to speak his truth and make it entertaining no matter what. But just when things started to cool off, the drama exploded again. His ex, Tia Kemp, the mother of one of his children, suddenly jumped in with her own take. Her involvement brought a whole new layer to the mess, stirring up talk about loyalty, betrayal, and the deep personal ties linking Ross, Drake, and everyone caught in this tangled feud. If the Vancouver chaos wasn't wild enough, what came right after turned the whole situation into a tangled web of drama that could fill a chart. The first person to jump into the mess was someone who had been waiting for this moment. Someone who knew Rick Ross better than most and had no reason to protect him anymore. That person was Tia Kemp, Ross's ex and the mother of one of his children. And when she went live on Instagram, she didn't hold anything back. Tia let loose with zero hesitation, roasting Ross like she'd been saving up her words for years. Her tone was sharp, personal, and designed to cut deep. In one clip from the stream, she said, "They got him right in that big eye," and followed it up with, "I'm glad they smacked the mess out of you, big man." She mocked Ross for not fighting back and kept posting stories calling him a clown, a man who talks tough but folds when it's time to show up. Every post, every line felt like she was twisting the knife. But then came the part that blew the whole situation sky high. On July 1st, just one day after the brawl, Drake posted a few photos celebrating Canada Day. Tia Kemp slid into the comments, writing, "Drakey," clearly showing where her loyalty stood. And Drake, he noticed. He replied with a heart emoji and the words, "My goat," giving the moment that extra sting. Ross saw it all and decided to fire back, and his comment lit up social media instantly. He replied, "Pedo versus Granny" at Champagne Poppy, taking a jab that referenced the same accusations Kendrick Lamar had thrown at Drake in Not Like Us, while also mocking Tia's age. The internet exploded. Screenshots flew across every blog, and fans went wild over the messy back and forth. What started as a fight in Vancouver had now turned into a full-blown digital war. Personal, petty, and impossible to ignore. This whole mess showed just how deep the cracks between Drake and Rick Ross had become. To really grasp how wild this fallout is, you gotta remember, these two weren't just collaborators, they were brothers in hits. Their track record together was legendary. They gave fans timeless records like Aston Martin Music, the smooth, slow jam that became a late-night classic, Lord Knows, a cinematic anthem produced by Just Blaze, Stay Skimming, where Drake dropped one of his most iconic verses ever, and Money in the Grave, which shot straight to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100.
But more importantly, it's not even about that. That's his business. At the same time, y'all just better realize that man been playing with y'all, joking and all that. Man ain't on that. That man's situation, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know him like that. But as far as I'm concerned, he been the victim his whole life.
For years, they were like the Shaq and Kobe of hip-hop. Two heavyweights whose chemistry was undeniable. Every time they linked up, it was magic. They even had plans for a joint album called YOLO back in the early 2000s, though it never saw the light of day. If it had dropped during their prime run, it could have easily been one of the biggest rap albums of the decade. Their bond went way beyond the booth too. They showed up for each other's events, popped bottles together, and spoke about each other with real respect. It wasn't just business, it looked like genuine friendship. In May 2023, Ross even said on Drink Champs that he and Drake were real close, claiming they were in that top 2% when it came to creativity and pen game. It sounded like a brotherhood that couldn't be broken. But fast forward less than a year, and that brotherhood had turned into a battlefield. Diss tracks started flying, and this time, the lines got personal. The drama kicked off when one of Drake's unreleased tracks leaked online in April 2024. It was aimed mainly at Kendrick Lamar, but somewhere in the mix, Drake threw shade at Ross too, bringing up his past as a corrections officer and flipping it into one of the coldest lines on the track. Fans couldn't believe it. The man who once called Ross a brother was now turning their history into ammunition. What used to be collaboration had officially turned into confrontation. Drake's leaked track didn't just take shots, it cut deep. In the song, he basically suggested that every charting hit Rick Ross ever had was thanks to him. He rapped, I might take your latest girl and cuff her like I'm Ricky. Can't believe he jumping in this. He turning 50. Every song that made it on the chart, he got from Drizzy. Spend that little check you got and stay up out my business. The message was clear. Drake was saying Ross's whole run depended on his features. The bars hit like a punch to the ego, painting Ross as someone living off borrowed fame. Ross didn't stay quiet for long. He clapped back that same day with a fiery response titled Champagne Moments. Recorded and dropped just hours after Drake's song leaked, it was a mix of creative speed and pure pettiness at its finest. Ross went straight for Drake's image, calling him white boy multiple times, accusing him of jacking Lil Wayne's flow, and even claiming he'd gone under the knife to change his nose. That's where the now viral nickname BBL Drizzy came from, a jab referencing cosmetic procedures that Ross claimed Drake had done. Ross even leaned into the joke by performing his diss track in clubs wearing a t-shirt printed with Drake's face on it. The trolling was relentless. Drake responded in his own signature way by posting receipts. He texted his mom screenshots telling her that Ross had lost it, saying the rapper was loopy off the Mounjaro and performing at small-town proms for quick cash. But in true Ross fashion, he posted those screenshots too, flipping it on Drake and mocking him for running to his mom instead of handling the beef like a man. Social media went crazy. Fans picked sides and memes exploded across every platform. Then came Ross's explanation for where this whole mess really started. According to him, Drake was the one who kicked things off when he sent a cease and desist letter to French Montana. On Champagne Moments, Ross rapped, "I unfollowed you, man, because you sent that weak cease and desist to French Montana. You the one who called the cops, hating on my dog's project." It was personal and direct. Ross made it sound like Drake had broken the unspoken code between collaborators and friends. Later, Ross sat down on Caresha Please with Young Miami, where he opened up about both the Vancouver chaos and his broken relationship with Drake. He didn't hold back, painting himself as unfazed, still the biggest boss, but clearly ready for war in one of hip-hop's most dramatic feuds in years. When asked if he could ever make peace with Drake, Rick Ross kept it unpredictable as always. He said, "I don't know, it depends how I feel. If I've already had some Luc Belaire champagne that morning, maybe it's a good day. If not, you never really know. That's just how the game go. Sometimes it's forget him, sometimes it's whatever. But other than that, I'm not losing sleep over none of this yet." His tone was cool and casual, like a man who's been in the game too long to stress. Ross also opened up about what went wrong in Vancouver, why his crew was caught off guard that night. He explained, "All my homies that usually travel with me, they couldn't come because of their records. If I'd had just 2 or 3 more of my real ones with me, we would have stripped them right there, socks and all." It was a mix of humor and pride, but the message was clear. Ross felt that the outcome would have been very different if his full team had been allowed in. Then came the bigger picture, the long, twisted, 15-year war between Rick Ross and 50 Cent. What most casual fans didn't realize was that 50's non-stop mocking after Vancouver wasn't just some random trolling, it was the latest round in one of hip-hop's most drawn-out and personal feuds. Their rivalry has been burning, cooling off, and flaring up again since the late 2000s, with every new spark adding to the legend. To understand why 50 went so hard, performing entire shows making fun of Ross, dropping video after video clowning him, you got to go back to where it all began. Their tension dates back to the 2008 BET Hip Hop Awards, and believe it or not, it supposedly started over a look. Yeah, Ross once said that 50 gave him what he called an evil stare, and he took it as a sign of disrespect. That single moment sparked a chain reaction that turned into one of rap's pettiest and most entertaining beefs ever. 50, of course, denied it completely. He claimed he didn't even remember seeing Ross there that night, and that comment only made things worse. Whether he truly forgot or said it just to dismiss Ross, the result was the same. The tension doubled. That one misunderstanding, a look, a vibe, or maybe just ego, snowballed into years of diss tracks, interviews, and pure chaos. From that moment on, every time Ross stumbled, 50 was there to laugh about it publicly, and every time 50 caught heat, Ross found a way to throw it back at him. What started as a stare turned into one of hip-hop's longest-running feuds, a mix of pride, pain, and pure pettiness that refuses to die down, even after more than a decade. Back in January 2009, things between Rick Ross and 50 Cent took a dark turn. Ross dropped mafia music, firing shots straight at 50's personal life, even referencing a domestic dispute involving 50's ex, Shaniqua Tompkins. It was bold, brutal, and way too personal. 50 didn't waste any time firing back. His response? a vicious track titled Officer Ricky, Go Ahead, Try Me, a full-on mockery of Ross's old job as a correctional officer, a detail that had been publicly exposed by the smoking gun the year before. That one move changed the tone of their entire feud. What followed wasn't your average rap beef. It was an all-out psychological war. 50 Cent went beyond the mic and built a whole campaign around tearing Ross apart. He dropped a series of animated Officer Ricky videos, short cartoons that painted Ross as a clueless prison guard pretending to be a kingpin. They were petty, funny, and ruthless all at once. But 50 didn't stop there. He brought real people into the fight. He interviewed Tia Kemp, the same woman who years later would take Drake's side, and she backed up the story about Ross's past job, even questioning whether the persona he built in his music was real. That move alone sent shockwaves through the hip-hop world. 50 wasn't just attacking Ross's lyrics, he was coming for his identity. Then 50 turned up the heat even more. In one of the most shocking moves in hip-hop history, he showed up outside DJ Khaled's mother's workplace, filming it as a message. Not to Khaled directly, but to prove a point that nobody around Ross was off limits. It was intimidation at its most personal, a stunt meant to make everyone connected to Ross feel the pressure. But the most damaging blow came when 50 released a private, intimate video involving Lastonia Leviston, the mother of one of Ross's children. He added his own cartoon commentary over it, turning a deeply personal moment into public humiliation. It was invasive, cruel, and crossed every line imaginable, a move that took the feud out of the music world and into something darker. At that point, it wasn't even about songs anymore. It was about destruction. 50 wasn't just trying to out-rap Ross. He was trying to break him, to expose every inconsistency, every piece of his image, and humiliate anyone connected to him. But that move would end up haunting 50 in the long run. Leviston took him to court, launching a lawsuit that dragged through the legal system and eventually cost 50 a serious amount of money. The beef had gone too far, and everyone watching knew it. In the end, the courts hit 50 Cent hard. A jury awarded Lastonia Leviston $7 million for emotional distress and invasion of privacy. It was a massive payout, showing just how serious the violation was. That ruling hurt more than just his image. It dented his finances, becoming one of the main reasons 50 filed for bankruptcy in 2015. Rick Ross and his fans never let him forget it either, often pointing to that loss as proof that even if 50 won some rounds, Ross might have won the war. But 50 being 50, he didn't stop there. He fired back legally, suing his own attorneys. He claimed that Ross was actually the one who leaked the tape and that his lawyers failed to protect him or gather the evidence he needed to win the case. The whole situation showed how messy things had gotten. What started as a rap beef had now spilled deep into their real lives, into their money, their reputations, and their sense of pride. Their feud never really cooled off. It just flared up again every few years. In 2013, when Ross survived a drive-by shooting attempt on his birthday, 50 jumped online immediately, saying the whole thing was fake, just a publicity stunt. Fans were stunned, but that's exactly the kind of move people had come to expect from 50. Cold, calculated, and always looking to get the last word. Fast forward to 2023, and the back and forth sparked up again. When Ross dropped his joint album, Too Good to Be True with Meek Mill, 50 mocked the project's sales, laughing at how their combined fame couldn't deliver big numbers. It was classic 50, trolling without mercy. Ross clapped back fast, flipping the insult on him, saying maybe he'd buy 50's masters since he didn't fully own them. That jab hit 50 where it hurt, his business legacy. It wasn't just about lyrics anymore, it was about who held real power behind the scenes. The shots they traded over the years were sharp, creative, and deeply personal, each one trying to hit the other's weakest spot. What made this feud legendary wasn't just the music, it was how strategic and layered it became. A war of chess moves, not just diss tracks. Ross once summed up his whole mindset about it perfectly, saying, "At the end of the day, it's chess. When you don't have nothing to lose, like I didn't back then, none of it really mattered." That line captured everything, the pride, the danger, and the raw emotion that fueled one of hip-hop's longest, pettiest, and most unforgettable rivalries. Ross's comment revealed something deeper about how he saw the whole feud. It wasn't a war he had to win, it was a long game of survival. To him, it was about standing tall no matter what got thrown his way. Every diss, every hit, every public embarrassment, Ross treated it like a move on a chessboard. His mindset wasn't about total victory, it was about never letting his enemies destroy him. Even when they threw every weapon they had, The idea of peace between these camps has come up plenty of times over the years, but the fallout between Drake and Ross made that dream seem even more impossible. And caught right in the middle of it all was none other than DJ Khaled, one of hip-hop's biggest collaborators and someone who's had close ties with all three, Drake, Ross, and even 50 Cent. For years, Khaled built his brand on unity, positivity, and bringing the biggest names together to make hits. Some of his most iconic songs, like I'm on One and No New Friends, featured both Drake and Rick Ross on the same track. But now those records feel like snapshots from another era, a time when these men were brothers, not rivals. When the new beef erupted online, fans instantly joked that Khaled might be the one suffering the most, saying his next album would be impossible to make if all his go-to collaborators refused to share a track again. Through all the chaos, Khaled stayed quiet, at least for a while, but in September 2025, he finally broke his silence during an interview on the Joe and Jada podcast. And when he finally spoke, his words were pure Khaled, positive, diplomatic, and all about love. He said, I love Drake. I love Ross. I love Future. I didn't get into that energy. There's two energies I don't touch. Hate. He kept it real in his signature tone, upbeat but careful. Those are my brothers, he added. You can't question my friendship. That's impossible. It was classic Khaled. Always choosing love over drama, staying neutral while the world around him burned with tension. And even though he avoided taking sides, his message reminded everyone why he's one of the few people in hip-hop who can keep peace with just about anybody, even when giants are at war. Ain't nobody like DJ Khaled. When it came to the Drake and Rick Ross drama, Khaled made it clear he still believes peace is possible. Ever the optimist, he positioned himself as the one who could maybe fix the mess. He said, a lot of this is just misunderstanding and not communicating. When it comes down to DJ Khaled, I'm the one that's gonna try to fix it. I love my brothers, and my brothers know that I'd love to squash it. It was pure Khaled energy, calm, confident, and full of faith. He even doubled down with a line that summed up his entire outlook on life. Everything's possible with God. Whether that faith will actually pay off is another story. But if anyone in hip-hop could pull off a truce between giants, it might just be Khaled. Still, when it comes to Rick Ross and 50 Cent, that beef feels eternal. 15 years deep with bankruptcies, lawsuits, leaked videos, cartoons, and now the infamous Vancouver chaos. Neither man has shown a single sign of giving in. Ross, when asked if peace could ever happen, stayed true to form. I don't think it would ever happen, he said plainly. And looking at everything stacked against him, it's hard to blame him for saying so. The Vancouver incident, the fallout with Drake, and the never-ending war with 50 have left Ross surrounded on all sides. His ex mocks him online. His former brother-in-arms Drake publicly co-signs his downfall, and his oldest rival uses every stage as a platform to clown him in front of the world. And yet, through all of it, Ross moves like none of it matters. He still flies private, sips Luke Belaire midair, surrounded by luxury cars and sprawling acres of mansion life. Whether it's real confidence or pure performance, nobody can deny his ability to act unfazed while the world keeps throwing shade. It's that same mix of pride and mystery that's always followed William Leonard Roberts II, the man who reinvented himself as Rick Ross, the biggest boss. 15 years into a feud with Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, and now months into fresh tension with Drake, Ross keeps telling the world he's untouched, calm, composed, and still stacking wins in his own way. Meanwhile, the Vancouver footage refuses to fade away, and 50 keeps the jokes alive at every show, reminding the crowd, Canada definitely ain't soft. The saga continues. And if there's one thing hip-hop fans have learned by now, it's that this story is far from over. Thanks for watching. Drop a comment below. Do you think Ross and 50 will ever squash it? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss the next deep dive. See you in the next one.